This video was not supposed to find just anyone today. It was supposed to find you. I want you to actually sit with that for a moment before we go any further, because I think most of us have become so accustomed to scrolling past content without really registering it that we have lost the ability to notice when something genuinely significant is placed directly in front of us. This is one of those moments. June 23rd is not a random day. The fact that you are here reading this on this specific date, after everything you have already walked through to arrive at this point in your life, is not coincidence. I believe God has been trying to get this specific message to you today. Not because the message itself is extraordinary, but because what it is about to describe, 5 specific miracles I believe are moving in your direction right now, is something God wants you to know about before these miracles arrive, so that you actually recognize them when they do, rather than letting them pass by unnoticed because you were not watching for them. I want to start by explaining why June 23rd specifically, because I do not want this to sound like any particular date could carry this same message. It cannot. The summer solstice arrived 3 days ago, marking the most significant turning point in the first half of this year, the sun reaching its furthest point north and beginning its return. The days immediately following a turning point like this carry a specific quality. Things that were sealed begin unsealing. Things that were held back begin releasing. Things that were being prepared behind closed doors begin stepping into the light. June 23rd sits in exactly this window, the immediate aftermath of the year's greatest threshold, and I believe God is using this window to release into your life what He has been preparing on your behalf for longer than you probably realize. I want to tell you about 5 specific miracles, not vague, general good things that could apply to anyone. 5 specific movements I believe God is making on behalf of those who are genuinely paying attention today. The first miracle is this. Something you have been praying about for a long time, something specific, something you have perhaps stopped picturing as clearly as you once did because picturing it started to feel more painful than hopeful, is about to show its first real signs of movement. I want to be specific about what first signs of movement actually looks like, because I do not want you to expect a dramatic arrival and then miss the actual movement because it came more quietly than you anticipated. First signs of movement often look like a small, unexpected piece of information that shifts your understanding of the situation, or a conversation that, while not the full answer, clearly points in the direction the full answer is coming from, or a sense of peace about something that has been producing anxiety, a quiet but genuine settling that arrives not because the situation has changed, but because God is giving you a glimpse of how it resolves. Watch for this kind of movement today and in the coming days. Do not dismiss it simply because it is not yet the full answer. First movement is still movement, and first movement on something that has been completely still for a long time is genuinely miraculous, regardless of how small the first sign appears. The second miracle is this. A door that has felt permanently closed is about to show its first sign of give. I want to talk about the specific quality of this kind of miracle, because I think it is one of the most spiritually disorienting experiences a person can have. When something has been closed long enough, we stop checking. We stop trying the handle. We quietly file it under permanently unavailable and redirect our attention elsewhere. But sometimes, in God's timing, the very door we stopped checking has been quietly unlocking while we were not looking. And the first moment we notice this is not when we deliberately try again, but when something in our life creates an occasion where we suddenly find ourselves unexpectedly close to that door again, and what we expected to find firmly locked has, without any fanfare, simply opened. If something in the coming days puts you unexpectedly close to a situation, a relationship, an opportunity that you had filed under permanently unavailable, I want you to reach for the handle rather than assuming it is still locked. June 23rd, in the window following the year's greatest threshold, is exactly the kind of day on which God opens what we had stopped expecting to open. The third miracle is this. Someone specific is about to see you differently than they have before. I want to describe the texture of this miracle carefully, because it tends to arrive quietly enough to be missed if you are not watching for it. This is not necessarily a dramatic declaration from someone you love, announcing a change of heart in unmistakable terms. More often, it is subtler than that. A shift in tone from someone who has been keeping a certain distance. A moment of attention from someone you love that feels different from their usual attention, more present, more specific, more genuinely seeing you rather than simply looking in your general direction. Cancer's energy, freshly activated by the solstice, is deeply connected to genuine emotional seeing, to the experience of being truly known rather than simply observed. If someone in your life has been looking at you without fully seeing you, this season specifically creates conditions where that begins to change, where what was previously visible to them only superficially starts to register more deeply. If you notice this shift in someone today or in the coming days, do not minimize it. Do not explain it away as a fluke. Let it land as the genuine miracle it is. Being seen, really seen by someone who matters to you is not a small thing regardless of how quietly it arrives. The fourth miracle is this: something that has been draining your energy without your full awareness is about to become visible, and its visibility is the first step toward your freedom from it. I want to explain why I am calling this a miracle, because on the surface it might sound more like a problem surfacing than a gift arriving. A miracle, in the fullest sense, is not simply something pleasant happening. It is something that moves you meaningfully in the direction of what God actually intends for your life, even when the movement feels uncomfortable or disorienting at first. Discovering what has been draining you, naming it clearly and honestly for the first time, is one of the most liberating discoveries a person can make, precisely because you cannot address what you have not yet clearly identified. The drain might be a relationship that has been subtly but consistently taking more than it gives. It might be a thought pattern, a recurring internal narrative that has been quietly costing you peace without you ever clearly recognizing it as the source of the peace you have been missing. It might be a commitment, an obligation, a version of yourself you have been maintaining for the benefit of others at significant personal cost. Whatever it is, June 23rd is a day when what has been draining you in hidden ways tends to become visible, and this visibility, however uncomfortable in the moment, is the beginning of your freedom from it. The fifth miracle is this: God is about to confirm something He has already told you privately, through a sign in the external world that mirrors what He has already placed in your heart. I want to explain the specific significance of this kind of miracle, because I think it is one of the most faith-sustaining experiences God offers. When God has spoken something to you privately, through a sense, through scripture, through prayer, through a quiet and persistent inner knowing, the gap between that private knowing and any visible external confirmation can be one of the most challenging spaces a person of faith occupies. You know what you believe God has said, but nothing in the visible world yet confirms it. And the gap becomes a place where doubt and the enemy attempt to convince you that what you heard was simply wishful thinking rather than genuine divine communication. Today, I believe God is specifically addressing this gap for many of you. Not by fully delivering everything the private knowing pointed toward, but by providing a specific, external confirmation, something that could not simply be explained as coincidence, that directly mirrors what has already been placed in your heart. This confirmation is not the fulfillment. It is the confirmation that the fulfillment is coming, offered specifically because God knows you need it, because you have been in the gap long enough, because today, June 23rd, is the day He has chosen to specifically honor the faith it took to hold onto what He spoke to you, without yet seeing its external confirmation. I want to talk now about something that I believe matters enormously for how you actually receive these 5 miracles as they arrive. Because receiving is a skill that many people have not fully developed, and underdeveloped receiving capacity is one of the primary ways miracles that are genuinely moving toward us end up passing by without ever fully landing. Most of us are considerably better at striving, at working towards something, at pushing and pressing and persisting in the direction of what we want, then we are simply opening our hands and receiving what God is placing in them. This is not a moral failing. It is a natural consequence of living in a world that generally rewards effort and often leaves receiving inadequately developed as a capacity. But receiving is as much a spiritual practice as any form of active faith, and today specifically I want you to practice it. When something that corresponds to one of the 5 miracles I have described arrives today or in the coming days, I want you to receive it fully rather than immediately minimizing it, questioning it, or redirecting your attention to what still has not arrived. Let it land. Let it matter. Let yourself feel the genuine significance of God moving on your behalf in this specific way, rather than moving quickly past the miracle toward the next thing you are hoping for, before you have even fully received the one that just arrived. I want to talk now about something specific to faith, because I believe the way we hold these 5 miracles in the period between today and their full arrival matters enormously for how we navigate that in-between time without losing hope. Faith, in the way I am using it here, is not the absence of doubt or uncertainty. It is the choice in the presence of doubt and uncertainty to continue living as though what God has promised is genuinely real, allowing that promise to shape your decisions, your expectations, your daily posture, rather than allowing the visible evidence of the current moment to be the only thing that determines how you live. If you carry this kind of faith into the coming days, you will notice things you would otherwise miss. A conversation that seems ordinary from the outside will register as the first sign of miracle 1, because your attention is specifically calibrated to recognize it. A door that seemed firmly closed will get tested, because faith says try anyway, and what you find when you try will surprise you. The miracles are real, but faith is part of how they become visible to you, not because faith manufactures them, but because faith orients your attention in exactly the direction they are actually arriving from. I want to talk now about something important regarding the timing of these 5 miracles, because I do not want you to think everything I have described must happen within the next 24 hours specifically. June 23rd is the day this message is meant to find you, and I believe some of what I have described will begin showing its first signs today or in the next few days. But I want to give you a wider window of expectation than just today, because God's timing does not typically operate on a single-day schedule, even when the message pointing toward it arrives on a specific day. I would invite you to hold the next 2 to 3 weeks as the window during which these 5 miracles unfold in their initial expressions, with some of them continuing to develop across the following weeks and months beyond that. This wider window of expectation allows you to notice and receive the first signs as first signs rather than dismissing them as unrelated simply because they did not arrive on June 23rd itself. I want to talk now specifically for those of you who might be wondering which of the 5 miracles applies most directly to your current situation, because I have described 5 and your life may feel most pressingly connected to 1 or 2 of them rather than all 5 equally. I want to offer you some guidance here. The miracle that resonated most deeply as you read, the one that made something in you quiet in recognition, the one that made you think that is mine, is almost certainly the one that is most directly moving in your direction right now. This recognition is not coincidence. It is discernment, your spirit registering connection with what is actually relevant to your specific season, rather than simply selecting what sounds most attractive. Take particular note of whichever miracle produced the strongest resonance for you, and direct your attention and prayer most specifically toward that one in the coming days. This does not mean the others are not also relevant. It simply means the one with the strongest resonance is likely the one God is most specifically speaking to you about today. I want to talk now about the practical response this message is asking of you, because I believe how you respond to what you have just received determines, in significant part, how fully the 5 miracles actually land, rather than simply passing through your awareness without taking root. The first thing I am asking is prayer, specific prayer, about the miracle that resonated most strongly for you. Not vague, general prayer asking for good things to happen, Specific prayer naming the exact thing you are hoping for, telling God that you are watching for it, asking Him specifically to help you recognize and receive it when it begins arriving, even in small and quiet forms. The second thing I am asking is attention, a heightened, specific attention throughout today and the coming days to small things that might correspond to one of the 5 miracles. Small, unexpected movements in a situation that seemed permanently still, a conversation that shifts in a meaningful direction, a moment of being genuinely seen by someone important to you, a discovery about what has been draining you, a confirmation that mirrors what you have been carrying privately. These are the textures of the miracles I have described. Pay attention for them specifically. The third thing I am asking is response. When you notice something that corresponds to one of the 5 miracles, respond to it rather than simply observing it. If the first movement you notice is a door showing signs of give, reach for the handle. If the first movement you notice is someone seeing you differently, let yourself be seen rather than retreating out of old habit. If the first movement you notice is a discovery about what has been draining you, do something with that discovery rather than simply noting it and moving on. Your active response to the first signs of each miracle is part of how they develop from first signs into their full expressions. I want to talk now for those of you carrying specific prayers for other people, for children, for spouses, for prodigals, for people you love who are struggling in ways that hurt you to watch, because I believe these interceding prayers are included in what June 23rd carries. The miracle that has been moving in the life of someone you have been praying for may begin showing its first signs today or in the coming days, not necessarily announced to you directly, but visible in small shifts in that person's behavior, their communication, their openness, their apparent willingness to move in a different direction than the one that has been causing you concern. Watch for these shifts. Do not require them to be dramatic before registering them as real. Small movements in the lives of people we have been praying for are some of the most significant miracles God provides, and they deserve to be received with just as much gratitude as the more directly personal miracles arriving for you simultaneously. I want to talk now about something specific to gratitude, because I believe how you practice gratitude in the period between today and the full arrival of these 5 miracles significantly shapes how you experience that in-between time. Gratitude in this context is not simply a feeling of thankfulness for what has already arrived. It is a practice of specifically acknowledging and thanking God for what is moving toward you even before it has fully arrived, a declaration of trust that it is coming before the visible evidence is complete. This kind of ahead-of-arrival gratitude does something specific in your spirit. It reinforces the expectation of receiving rather than the expectation of disappointment, which shapes how readily you recognize each miracle's first signs as they actually begin to appear. I want to talk now about something for those of you who are genuinely tired, who have been carrying heavy things for a long time and who are receiving this message with more weariness than excitement, who want to hope but feel the danger of hoping again after previous seasons of hoping did not produce what you hoped for. I want to address your weariness directly. It is real. It comes from real history. The wall around your hope that has gradually built up across seasons of disappointment is not weakness. It is a reasonable response to real pain, and I do not want to minimize it by simply urging you to try harder to feel hopeful. What I will offer instead is this. The 5 miracles I have described today do not require your full, enthusiastic confidence in order to begin arriving. They require only that you stay open enough not to actively block them, not to slam the door completely on the possibility that this time something might actually be different. Whatever guarded, cautious, barely open version of hope is currently available to you, bring that today. God meets us where we are, including in our weariness, including in our barely open-handedness. You do not need to manufacture hope you do not currently feel. You only need to leave enough space for something you were not expecting to actually arrive. I want to close, chosen one, with a blessing for the specific season you are entering, as this message finds you today on June 23rd. May the 5 miracles I have described find their way to you with enough clarity that you recognize them as they arrive, rather than noticing them only in retrospect when looking back. May the miracle most specifically on your heart today show its first signs in a way that renews your faith, rather than requiring you to manufacture faith you do not currently have. May the person you have been praying for take their first clear step toward the answer you have been asking God to deliver to them. May the door you had given up on prove to be the very door God has been quietly unlocking while you were not watching. And may what God has spoken to you privately find its first external confirmation today in a form specific enough that you cannot easily explain it away. You found this on June 23rd. You were supposed to. The 5 miracles are moving. Get ready to receive them. I want to add something more before closing, something about the relationship between these 5 miracles and the broader story God has been writing in your life across all the seasons that led to this specific day. None of the 5 miracles I have described arrived disconnected from what came before them. Each one has been building across seasons, shaped by every prayer you prayed, every difficulty you walked through, every moment of faithfulness you chose when unfaithfulness would have been easier, every quiet day where nothing visible happened but something invisible was still being carefully prepared. The miracles arriving now are not separate from that history. They are its fruit, the direct result of everything God has been doing with the seasons you have already lived through. This matters, chosen one, because it means that even the hardest parts of your recent history were not simply painful detours from your actual journey. They were the actual journey, the very terrain across which these miracles were being slowly, carefully prepared. The doors that closed were closing so other, better-fitted doors could be positioned. The relationships that ended were ending to make room for the relationships that were actually meant. The silence that felt like abandonment was, in fact, the quiet intensity of preparation happening in exactly the places you could not yet see. I want to talk now about something specific to the miracle involving the person who is about to see you differently, because I want to prepare you for one particular dynamic that sometimes accompanies this kind of miracle. When someone begins to genuinely see you for the first time, or to see you freshly after a period where familiarity had dulled their perception, it sometimes comes with a degree of discomfort for you, not because it is unwelcome, but because being truly seen requires a level of vulnerability that can feel exposing even when the seeing is genuinely good. If this miracle arrives today and you notice yourself wanting to retreat, to deflect, to make yourself smaller or less visible in response to the increased attention, I want you to recognize this urge for what it is, an old habit of protection that no longer serves you, and to gently resist it. Let yourself be seen. Let the attention actually reach you. The miracle of being genuinely seen cannot complete its work if you retreat from it precisely at the moment it arrives. I want to talk now about something specific to the miracle involving what has been draining your energy without your full awareness, because I want to prepare you for the discomfort that this particular miracle sometimes produces in the short term before it produces freedom. When we first clearly see what has been draining us, the natural initial response is often not relief but something closer to grief, because the clarity brings with it the recognition of how much has been lost, how long this drain has been operating, how different things might have been if the recognition had arrived sooner. This grief, while uncomfortable, is actually part of the miracle's completion, the full honesty that makes genuine healing possible rather than simple management of a problem that remains fundamentally unaddressed. If today's miracle of clarity produces this kind of initial grief or discomfort rather than immediate relief, I want you to receive it as a necessary part of the process rather than as evidence that something has gone wrong. Real freedom from a long-standing drain almost always requires passing through genuine acknowledgement of what the drain has cost before arriving at the relief of its actual removal. I want to talk now about something for those of you who might receive all 5 of these miracles specifically as applying to something connected to your children, to your family, to the people most immediately in your closest circle. Some of what God is releasing on June 23rd is not primarily for you individually. It is for your household, for the people you are most responsible for and most connected to. If you are a parent, a grandparent, someone with significant responsibility for others in your immediate life, I want you to watch today not only for miracles in your own personal experience, but for signs of movement in the lives of those you carry in your heart most faithfully. The same God who is moving toward you today is simultaneously moving toward the people you love. And what begins for them today, their first signs of answer, their door showing give, their experience of being genuinely seen, may be something you witness from the outside rather than experiencing yourself directly. I want to talk now about something important regarding what you do after this message ends, because I believe the first 30 minutes to an hour following the receipt of a message like this one determines significantly whether what was received takes root or gradually fades back into the background noise of ordinary life. Immediately after reading this, I would invite you to do one of two things, depending on which feels most natural for you. Either pray specifically, naming each of the 5 miracles and asking God to open your eyes to their first signs as they begin arriving, or write down briefly which miracle resonated most strongly and what one specific response you are committing to making in the next 24 hours. Both of these activities serve the same purpose, anchoring what you have just received in something concrete enough that the encouragement produces genuine traction rather than simply being a pleasant feeling that fades by this time tomorrow. The message was meant to find you. It found you. Now let what it carried take root in something real. I want to close, truly finally, with something about why I believe these 5 specific miracles, rather than 5 others, are the ones moving toward you today on June 23rd. I chose these 5 not because they apply to everyone equally in exactly the same way, but because they represent 5 of the most fundamental movements God makes in a person's life when a genuine new season is beginning, something that has been still beginning to move, a door long closed beginning to show give. The experience of being truly seen arriving from a specific person, the freedom-producing clarity about what has been draining you, and the external confirmation of something God has already spoken to you privately. These are not random blessings. They are the specific movements of a God who knows exactly where you are, what you need, and what this particular moment in your journey calls for. He is not guessing at what to release today, he knows. And what he has chosen to release specifically for you on specifically this day is exactly what this particular moment requires. You were supposed to find this. The 5 miracles are moving, receive them well. I want to add one final extended reflection, chosen one, something about a question I believe many of you are carrying as you read this. A question you might not have articulated, but that is present underneath everything you are feeling right now. The question is this: why me? Why would God specifically arrange for this message to find me specifically on this specific day? What have I done to deserve this kind of specific, personal attention from a God who has an entire universe to manage? I want to answer this question directly because I believe it matters more than almost anything else in this message. It is not about what you have done to deserve it. If God's attention to you were based on what you have done to deserve it, none of us would receive any of it. It is based on something far simpler and far more profound. You are His chosen one. You belong to Him. Not because you earn that belonging through sufficient faithfulness or adequate spiritual performance, but because He made you, chose you, and loves you with the kind of love that does not wait for the loved one to prove themselves deserving before attending to their needs. The 5 miracles moving toward you today are not rewards for sufficient faithfulness. They are the expression of a love that has been watching you, attending to you, preparing for you through every single season of your life, including the ones where you felt least attended to and least loved. God's care for you is not contingent on your performance, your clarity, your spiritual consistency, or your ability to maintain hope through difficulty. It is simply constant as He is, which is to say, completely. You are worth these miracles not because of what you have done, but because of whose you are. And whose you are does not change based on the quality of any given season, the strength of your faith on any particular day, or the clarity of your understanding of what God is doing in your life at any specific moment. Today, June 23rd, God is moving toward you with these 5 miracles because He loves you. That is the entire reason. It is sufficient on its own. And it is why, out of everything this message has offered you today, I most want you to carry this particular understanding forward, past the specific miracles, past the specific date, into every future day when you find yourself wondering whether God has forgotten you or moved on or decided you were not worth the ongoing attention your life seems to require. He has not forgotten you, chosen one. He cannot. You are His. Now receive what He is releasing for you today. And when each of the 5 miracles begins to show itself in whatever quiet or dramatic form it actually takes, I want you to mark it, write it down, tell someone who will celebrate it with you. Do not let it pass by unacknowledged simply because you were too accustomed to waiting to fully register that the waiting, at least for this particular thing, has ended. The waiting ends. The miracles arrive. And you, chosen one, having found this on June 23rd, having read this all the way to the end, are standing exactly where God intended you to stand when this message finally found you. Right at the threshold of everything He has been preparing. Step through it. The other side is better than you imagine. Write miracle in the comments if you receive this today. I read every comment. Subscribe and turn on notifications because what God is releasing this week continues to unfold, and you are going to want to know what comes next.